Dear students, in my previous video I discussed the Chitra Fernando's action and reaction, half of it, and let's proceed with the story in this lesson. We discuss to the point that Lokunanda bringing home a girl called Kusuma to be brought up like a daughter, right? And after that, Nangi Mala often visited Lokunanda's home because Kusuma was of her age. She didn't have playmates, all other were elder than her, therefore she met Kusuma as a playmate. Now I discuss from this point onward. I think my lesson will be useful for you. Listen to it from the beginning. It seemed to me that Nang is showing off a bit. She would sit with Kusuma on the veranda steps and tell her all about wonders of the world. Now, Mala is above Kusuma. Had Kusuma ever been to Colombo? She satirizes. No. Then she wouldn't ever have been in a lift. Would she? No. Had she ever been on an escalator? No. Kusuma's ignorance was satisfying to Nangi. That is, female behavior, though it is the childhood. Had she been to the zoo? No. What was a zoo? Nangi was in her element. She told Kusuma all about zoo. The tigers, the lions, the bears, the giraffes, the kangaroos, the zebras, the red-backed baboon, the elephants. Kusuma said, seen an elephant. She has seen an elephant. Oh, Nangi was quite disappointed because how did Kusuma see an elephant? Where had Kusuma seen an elephant? Dragging logs on the road. Matara, that time, logs were dragged along the road by elephants. That wasn't so bad. The zoo elephants didn't do anything as silly and foolish as dragging logs. Dragging logs is something foolish according to Nangi. They balanced on that zoo elephants not like that. They balanced on little stools or skipped round the arena. And then all the people laughed and clapped. Kusuma longed to go to Colombo to see all those marvels. She asked Nangi 1,001 questions. She asked Nangi 1,001 questions. Right? That is also Sri Lankan pattern. 1,001 question. In English, there is no such a thing. Chitra Fernando uses Sinhala experiences in English, but we can't say that is English. Anyway, that is also one technique of writing. When you write about the techniques, you can see, you can write it. Nangi brought her picture books. Kusuma had never held a book in her hands before. She is an illiterate girl because Toditapa's daughter. Nangi brought her, yes. She turned over the pages carefully. Nangi lent her books for a few days. She couldn't read, of course, but she loved looking at the pictures. Then Lokunanda ordered Nangi to take the books away. Lokunanda didn't like Kusuma learning. That is also hypocrisy. If she really wants Kusuma to be her daughter, what does it matter to her when Kusuma learns to read? Kusuma looked at pictures too often. That very afternoon she was looking at pictures when she should have been polishing the brass. Of course, Lokunanda didn't mind Nangi talking to Kusuma. But she must not spoil her. What is this way of spoiling? Reading letters, is it a way of spoiling? That is also one action Lokunanda prevents her learning. So Nangi took the books away, but Kusuma talked and talked about the animals at the zoo. She learnt about that. The cat is like the tiger, said Kusuma. It's a little tiger. And she cuddled the household cat. She had seen household cat. Others, uh, pictures only. Yes, I said. The cat is a kind of tiger. And I told her all about cats and tigers and leopards. She listened to me with her great black eyes wide open because mm, she can't believe such things. She has never witnessed. She had a great longing for information, for knowledge in those days. The new year drew closer. We were going to spend the new year in Colombo with Punchi Amma and now cousins. There is another Punchi Amma, mother's side sister. Nangi asked, can we take Kusuma too? Because she has no playmate. Mother looked surprised. It was such a new idea, she didn't know what to say. She has never been to Colombo. She has never been in a lift. She has never been on an escalator. And she has never seen a lion or tiger or giraffe or zebra or kangaroo or a Nangi had to stop for breath. Lokunanda began mother. I don't know, Lokunanda, because mother can't give words. Everyone respected. Lokunanda was the principal of the family. I'll ask her, said Nangi. I decided Nangi was a lot wiser than I had thought her. We went to Lokunanda's the next day. Nangi carried a dish in her hand. What's that? I asked. Nothing, said Nangi. Nothing, let me see, let me see. Now, this is also Sri Lankan pattern of using English. Let me see, let me see. We don't want to repeat the same thing. One time telling, we don't say yes, yes. No, 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 wrong. I lifted the cover of the dish and saw the waraka inside. Uh, I laughed. I understood all. Lokunanda liked receiving things. And she also a woman who leads a double life, duality. Right? One is religious, one is social. Also, her actual life is hypocritic. Jealousy also, she one quality that she has. Later we learn it. Mala, what's that? Lokunanda ate the dish with great interest. We had a lot of waraka at home. And I said, you liked waraka, so Amma sent it. Now here also the word Amma she uses without mother. Lokunanda smiled. She loved getting presents. Nangi said tomorrow she would bring her some mangosteens. Tomorrow Banda would come from Kalutara. And he always brought mangosteen at the time of the year. There is one servant or someone, Banda, coming from Kalutara. As we were leaving, Nangi said, we were going to Colombo for the new year. Can Kusuma come too, please? Please, Lokunanda, please let her come. I always feel so dull at Punchamma's place because there is no one of her equal age. Everyone's bigger than me and they don't play with me. Please, Lokunanda. Nangis played in almost tearful face. The Varakat today, the mangosteen tomorrow. How could Lokunanda refuse? Right, Lokunanda likes to receive gifts. She did not refuse, so it was settled. Kusuma would go to Colombo with us. Nangi raced to back of the house. Kusuma was sweeping the garden. You are coming with us to Colombo. You are coming with us. Nangi jumped up and down. She was mad with joy. Kusuma stood where she was quite still. You are coming to Colombo? To Colombo? It is a surprise. Yes, surprising to herself also. Kusuma stared. Then all at once she understood. She smiled. A little dimple appeared for a moment. I had never seen that dimple before. I never saw it again. her teeth, that happy smile, Mala saw in Kusuma's face for the first time. After that, she never saw it. Her teeth were very small, little, like gleaming grains of polished rice, and all the stars in the sky tumbled right into her great black eyes. We were to go to Colombo the following week. The day before we left, Nangi and I went to Lokunanda with 2 bottles of honey that she had wanted. Right? We were to leave for Colombo by the Ruhunukumari the next morning. That time, most favorite means of traveling is the train. Mm, As we stepped onto the veranda, we could hear Lokunanda's angry voice from inside. Aren't you thoroughly ashamed, girl? You eat a mountain of rice every day. That's also again Sri Lankan expression in English. You eat a mountain of rice every day. Yet you are still greedy, disgusting, filthy girl. Chi chi. She has stolen a gown from Lokunanda. Hmm. Salvi said, now, uh, after giving something to eat, right? Blaming like this is also not suitable for a lady like herself because she is too much religious. Salvi said nothing, and servant, but we couldn't hear her very clearly. Thoroughly curious now, we went into the pantry where all the noise was. The moment Lokunanda saw us, said angrily, Kusuma is not going to Colombo. She is not going. Don't give her enough to eat. Do you know what she has been doing? Quietly eating my cow. They were here in that airtight tin. I caught her stealing, caught her red-handed. Caught her red-handed means caught her when she was stealing that itself. Now here it is the problem. That girl has eaten cow. Why did she steal? Perhaps Lokunanda would not give if she asked. It was true. Kusuma was clutching a cow in her hand. She stared at the floor. Half the cow have been eaten. She has been stuffing herself these last 2 3 days. On the side of Kusuma as a child is also wrong. She would have asked. The greedy thing, Mala, you have been spoiling her with all this talk of Colombo, all these lions and zebras. She is getting quite disobedient. No Colombo for her. No new cloth and jacket. I give and give and give, and this is my reward. There's also action and reward reaction. She gives and gives and gives as she says. This creature steals my crown. Now what shall I do? You can make some more. Lokunanda said Nangi timidly. Look, we have brought you some really fine honey. She held out the bottles eagerly. Now she think that she can convince Lokunanda, having given her bottles of honey. Lokunanda ignored the bottles. Make some more, Nangi says. Oh, it's easy for you to talk. Will you make them for me? This fine young lady hopes to go to Colombo, and I am to sweat over fire making more count to replace those she has gobbled up. Not the karmic law is my constant guide. Karmic law is constant guide. No Colombo, no zebras, no kangaroos for this creature here. She will stay behind and help me to make more counts. Here action, stealing count, reaction, yes, what? Or forbidding her to go to Colombo. Kusuma didn't look up, didn't utter a word. The cow held tight in a clenched fist, crumbled, and the beads fell on the floor. Still she is keeping a caun in her hand, Kusuma. Nangi and I left quietly a few minutes later. Right, we could still hear Lokunanda shouting at Kusuma. Tears of disappointment were streaming down Nangi's cheeks, yet Kusuma hadn't shed even a single tear. Right, because she is a weather-beaten girl. Right, because father also beat her. We saw her in the garden next morning as we walked past Lokunanda's house to the railway station. Nangi tried to speak to her, but she ran inside. Mother said, "Now, Mala, leave her alone. You will make Lokunanda angrier." It was very wrong of her to steal. She has to be punished. Lokunanda always talking about giving, but she has not going to give Kusuma even a New Year present. And Kusuma isn't going to get any kaun or kokiso alua. Nanda is very unkind, Nangi says. According to her knowledge, she says Nilokunanda is unkind. Enough, Mala, enough. You talk you talk far too much. Kusuma has stolen. She has to be punished. I agree completely with Lokunanda, said father severely. Nangi pouted. She was glum all the way to Colombo, but when we arrived at Punchiamma's, we found that our cousin Leela had come down from Kandy, and then Nangi forgot all about Kusuma. Right, that is about Kusuma's childhood. After the Kaun incident, Lokunanda kept Kusuma very busy. Again, action, reaction. Action, Kusuma is stealing Kaun. Reaction, Lokunanda keeping her busy. She was always cleaning, polishing, sweeping, of crocheting. There was little time for play. In the months that I followed, I too began to be increasingly busy at the end of the year. I sat for my first public examination and passed with 2 distinctions and several credits. That means O-level exam. After that, I went to live with Punchamma in Colombo and went to school there. Now Mahinda says, by this time, Mahinda is a doctorate degree holder. I was in Payagala only for the holidays. The world realized was a very big place, and the world of ideas was ever bigger. I passed my university entrance examination today, advanced level, and went to live in Kandy. I read a lot. I held forth to my friends, argued with my teachers. It's a new university life. The world in those days was a very exciting place. I was right at the center and very important person, one rebellious person. I still spent my holidays in Payagala, the small dull town. I remember that last long vacation in my final year at university very well. Lokunanda was just the same, still full of Shraddha. Right, when he went to university also, Lokunanda continued the Shraddha, devotion. Still busy collecting meritorious acts. She is still busy collecting meritorious acts, but there was now about her an air of relaxation, the air of someone who could rest a bit after a hard life of meritorious toil and labor. She was always collecting meritorious things, merits to go to a next place after birth. Lokunanda knew that she was still a long way from Nibbana, but she was in no special hurry to go there. She didn't want to go there hurriedly. Uh, she had no objection to remain in samsara for a couple of years or so. Right, that is also one greedy thing. The writer speaks of greediness of Lokunanda, because Buddhist ultimate hope is to make the samsara, if not transmigration, short and attain Nibbana. But she liked to prolong there. Then she is not a real Buddhist. That's what the writer wants to say. And she was determined to spend those years as comfortably as possible. Yes. There is also religious hypocrisy, you know. She had always been a very practical woman. A week before my vacation ended, we were all invited to a big Piritandani at house of Lokunanda. At the house, Piritandani. No, normally Buddhist monks are chanting Pirit. And Dani means alms giving. The writer uses those terms. Lokunanda's Pirithandanas were always great success. Everyone enjoyed themselves. For at least 2 days before, the house was full of people. Hmm. Busy talk, laughter, the smell of food. Yes, Lokunanda is famous for them because she also wants to be popular among others. There is one, yes, action is giving, offering me, adani mean giving alms. Reaction is getting public popularity, dignity. She expects something. That's why I said in previous lesson also, real Buddhists can't expect anything. Okay, that is also desire then. There were friendliness and good humor everywhere. This spirit and Dani was to be a really grand affair. 25 monks had been invited. Kusuma, who was very artistic, was helping with the decoration of the Pirit Mandape. I watched as she worked. She was at this time about 19, tall, slender, fair skin. Her hair was tied back in a big conde. Now Kusuma, she has become a young girl now. Her face was fuller, rounder, but her eyes were as huge and as black as ever. She moved quickly, lightly, and then all at once I realized that Kusuma was a very beautiful woman. So I looked at her often. So did Lokunanda, but for a very different reason. I was looking at Kusuma because Kusuma is a young girl. It is not something surprising for a young boy to look at a young girl. During Piridane, there was a lot of people around. Uh, Lokunanda took her responsibilities very seriously because one thing is that she was also showing off. Seeing that everyone behaved in the proper way was the most serious of these responsibilities. Lokunanda saw whether everyone behaving responsibly, behaving the proper way. Kusuma in particular was a special responsibility because now by this time Kusuma has become Lokunanda's right hand, Lokunanda's supporter. Oh, one of her expectations in bringing up this girl is also that because she has no one, she's unmarried, no children. Kusuma wasn't even in the least bit frivolous. Salpi was quite old now, another servant, and Kusuma was beginning to have an increasingly important place in Lokunanda's household. She valued that importance very much. She moved gracefully but efficiently from kitchen to veranda, supervising, organizing, and advising. Kusuma has also gained a position there. One young man in particular was very willing to obey her instruction and orders. Mahinda supervised that. One young man willing to observe and obey her uh, orders. Yes, he always managed to find work where she was likely to be. If Kusuma was anywhere, they are too eager to cut, chop, slit, or pound. Okay. If she was in the sitting room, now cleared the Pirit Mandap, he was that man, eager to hammer in nails, paste paper, move tables and chairs. Kusuma spoke to him very briskly, sometimes even severely. Mahinda was observing. There was never the slightest softness in her voice or face. But once I saw her look around as if searching for someone. She looked anxious. Then she spotted him among the other young men and smiled a quick, tiny smile. Right? Now, Mahinda also searching other things. Lokunanda did not see that smile, but I did. I asked Nangi who he was. Ah, that's Piyadasa. He works in Martin Mudali's Kade. Again, kiosk, the word kiosk, now the singular word Kade is used here. I looked at him again. He was tall and fair skinned and had a kind face. I liked him. On the night of Pirit, 25 monks arrived in their yellow robed splendor and took their places in the pure white Pirit Mandape. Its walls were made of cutwork paper, its canopy a dazzling white cloth. If the monks who were seated inside the mandapa looked up, they would have seen that the canopy had little bunches of young coconut leaves hanging from it at intervals. They had been placed by Kusuma. Now, if there are only single medium student understand what is this Pirit Mandape, mean others. When chanting Pirit, by the monks chanting Pirit, Buddhist people make some chamber like a hut decorated with coconut leaves and many other things. We sat around mandap on mats and listened monks chanting Pirit. I looked around me and noticed Piyadasa seated behind Kusuma. Piyadasa also seated behind Kusuma. They were right at the back of the room. Lokunanda, who was at the chief Dayaka. Dayaka. There is also a singular word, subscriber. Better word, subscribe of a temple. And the donor of everything. Sat by herself on a special little mat right in front. She doesn't sit with others. On a special little mat. She held clasped hands high, almost at forehead level. That is also devotion. So devotion is a deception. She was in the picture of the perfect Shraddha and we all admired her greatly. Now, the writer deals with Buddhist practices after Mahapirita at night. I went off to be. Lokunanda sat listening to chanting all night. I was told this was nothing less than we expected. She was the most energetic of us all. The next morning, after the morning meal, the chief monk preached a short sermon. I still remember the sermon very well. It was on Dana Paramita, perfection of giving. Now, this act of giving is meant for gathering merits, so many merits, so that she can go to a next place in future. Monks also preach the same sermon. We had heard lots of Jataka stories on the perfection of giving before the story of Vesantara, of Sri Sangabo, and of course the story of the little self-sacrificing hare whose image Sakra placed high up in the bright moon fall for all to see. In one Jataka tale, uh, it said that Bodhisattva was born as a hare and a hungry monk was approaching. The monk was Sakra. Sakra disguised, Sakra is king of God, disguised himself like a hungry monk and approached begging. That hare understood and it said that hare jumped onto a fire wishing that my body may be food for that hungry monk. It said that it was after that Sakra painted a picture of a hair on the moon. These are legends. Okay, these are legends. Every literature, every religion has related literature to. We call that religious literature. Arabic Islamic related to Islam. Christian stories are there as well as our Buddhist. These stories, literature, religious literature contains so many exaggerations. They are not real, superstitious with exaggeration. These stories we all knew, but not the story the chief monk told us that morning. When the students know the story uh, from A to Z, right? You have ideas to write at the exam. Okay. This is the story the monk preached. Pingvatuni mean devoted Buddhist. He began of the 10 perfection. There are 10 perfection. Uh, one perfection is better than the other. All these 10 equal perfection reside in the Tathagata. Tathagata means Bodhisattva. Buddha. Brighter than 1,000 suns are the perfections of Tathagata. Tathagata has perfections brighter than 1,000 suns. Bearing in mind then that all the perfections of the Tathagata shine equal in the splendor, today I shall discourse on the perfection of giving. The perfection of giving shows itself in one key way. It shows itself generosity. Giving of alms is generosity. According to Buddhism, giving alms is generosity. That is one great perfection. And these who seek the supreme goal must ceaselessly practice such generosity. Here the poet becomes a little bit critical towards religion but doesn't satirize. Our Pinwat Payagala Harminia. Payagala Harmony is Lukunanda. Lukunanda likes to hear that word from the mouth of monks. And all you others who have participated in ceremony have shown your devotion to the doctrine by your liberally and by your presence here. Listen to this. Yet hard is the way to enlightenment. Enlightenment means becoming Buddha. That is one word related to Buddhism. Now the one story the right monk says, right, many of are not familiar with that. Once the Bodhisattva was born a king, Manikuda, by a name. He was compassionate, generous, a giver and donor of all things. Being so, Manikuda wished to perform the great sacrifice. Niragada, various heretics, Brahmin, mendicants, beggars, princes gathered for the sacrifice. The Bodhisattva Manikuda addressed this assembly. Sirs, I wish to perform the great sacrifice, Niragada, and which no doors are closed, no living being killed, except with minds full of sympathy. These sacrificial gifts were given to all those who come to suit their desire. Then on the 20th day sunrise, Sakra, the Lord of all gods, wishing to test the Bodhisattva, took the form of a terrible demon and arose suddenly from the great sacrificial fire. He cried out, Fortunate and compassionate Lord, deliver me who suffer severe pain by a quick gift of food. That is also equal story to what I said. Fear not, dear one. Here is much food as you desire. It is not this kind of food I eat, great king, but the flesh and blood of the newly killed. the kin of food you eat, the kind of food you eat, dear one, cannot be had without injury to others. I abstain from killing. Therefore, eat my flesh and drink my blood to your content. Today, giving away my flesh and blood, I shall place my foot on the head of Mara. Thus, Mara means death, person called death. Thus will I delight the whole world that yearns for liberation. As the Bodhisattva spoke, the whole earth trembled like a boat in the ocean. This is also legends, not Buddhism. Buddhism related literature, right? These are not the things that Buddha preached. Taking a knife, yes, as Bodhisattva spoke, the whole earth trembled like a boat in the ocean. The Asuras are demons, and the Gandharvas in the sky, hearing of that wonderful gift, were spellbound. Taking a knife, the Bodhisattva opened a vein in his brow. The demon drank, quenching his thirst. The Bodhisattva, filled with delight, next cut off his flesh and gave to the demon to eat. And he thought, my wealth has been fruitful, my flesh, my blood, my life has been fruitful. That is called donation, giving, alms giving. If Bodhisattva could give his blood and flesh, why can't you Buddhists give food for monks? That's the content of that story. As they read his thoughts, the gods assembling the air cried out loud with joy. Sakra assumed his own from giving. Great king, I am Sakra. What do you wish to gain by this deed? By most strenuous effort, the Bodhisattva replied, Kaushika. Kaushika may be a word for Sakra. By this gift I do not wish to be a Sakra, Mara or Brahma or gain sovereignty over the universe or birth in the heavens, but by this deed may attain perfect enlightenment to release the unreleased. My ambition is to uh, gain enlightenment, to release the unreleased, entire world. So console the unconsoled, to liberate the unliberated. This is my wish. Yes, Bodhisattva's wish. This Pinnotun is Dana Paramita, the perfection of giving. All people were listening to the elder monk, chief monk. The monk stopped. The sermon was over. For a moment, we were all silent. Then people stirred, joints cracked, and Lokunanda, with hands clasped high above her head, cried out in a voice trembling with Shraddha, Sadhu, Sadhu, Sadhu. You know it. All who were there took up the cry. The monks bowed their heads and gazed steadfastly at their fans. After giving the people this blessing, the chief monk, followed by the others, left. Chief monk and others left, 25 monks. Lokunanda, her face beaming, came up to Mother and Punchinanda. This is the most successful Pirit and Dani I have ever given. Everything went off beautifully. Did you notice how Mrs. Valikala was eyeing Pirit Mandappe? Eyeing the Pirit Mandappe. It's 10 times nicer than hers. Here also jealousy and hypocrisy are brought out. Here she noticed Mrs. Valikala eyeing sitting nice to her Pirit Mandappe. Right? Then was she listening to sermon? No. She was searching, observing Mrs. Valikala's behavior. Right? Then through arranging this Pirit and Dani, Pirit and alms giving, her expectation is to dominate others. Right? She says, our Pirit Mandappe is 10 times nicer than Mrs. Valikala. That there's a competition in performing right meritorious things in Buddhism. That is not a mistake of Buddhism. That is the way the people follow that. One must overtake the other. Punchinanda laughed. She asked me who had made it and where we had got all the white paper from. I muttered something but didn't tell. Both Nandas laughed gleefully, almost like little girls. Punchinanda and Lokunanda. 2 days later, when I arrived home after sea bath, I find Lokunanda, Punchinanda, mother, and Nangi all seated on the veranda. Now, this is the uh, one point of the story. We can say actually climax up to now. Uh, Talking, it seemed a very serious conversation. Lokunanda looked agitated and angry. Kusuma wants to marry Piyadas, and Nangi burst out when she saw me. Good idea. Lokunanda stared at me. If I had suddenly turned into a serpent, Kusuma to marry Piyadasa? She exploded. What's wrong with that? I really couldn't see what the fuss was about. That's what I thought too, said Nangi boldly. Nangi had just got engaged to our second cousin Nihala. Nangi has a lover now, and felt that everyone should be encouraged to marry as quickly as possible. We both looked at Lokunanda. In spite of being a final year at the university, I felt a bit afraid. Lokunanda's chest heaved, her lips trembled, her eyes seemed to shoot sparks of fire. I said, Lokunanda is a misanthrope. Here, that idea comes out clearly. The selfishness, the ingratitude of everyone after all I have done. Kusuma has no right to marry Piyadasa because right, Lokunanda has done many things for Kusuma. Punchinanda said, you young people these days don't think of anything serious, only your own selfish desires matter. Do you think of your duty? She spoke very seriously. That Punchinanda also always uh, right takes after her sister. She doesn't go against that. Tanna, Tanna, Tanna. They have all with Tanna. Then Lokunanda admits marriage as Tanna. Is it? Is marriage Tanna? No. When I think of what I have done for that girl, she was like a wild animal when she came to me, covered with sores and lice. I cleaned her, fed her, clothed her, civilized her. Piyadas came to me and said he wanted to marry her, and she was willing. I couldn't believe it, to do this behind my back. A young girl falling in love with a boy is the world, the nature of the world. Now, other thing, she didn't run away with Pidasa. Pidasa directly came and asked Lokunanda's preference. Lokunanda's chest began to heave again. I said, Lokunanda, don't be angry with me, but they haven't done anything behind your back. Pidasa came and asked you, didn't he? They haven't run away. Hmm? Anything, as Freud says. Now he has learned university things, so he speaks about Freudian theories. I said, yes, Mahinda, what do you know about these things? After you went to university, your head is stuffed with full of useless foreign ideas. Sigmund Freud is a useless foreign man, according to Lokunanda. Who is this Freud? Who is this Marx? Who are now always trying to talk about? He's always talking about Karl Marx because university students are Marxists, the followers of the theory of Karl Marx. What do these foreigners know about our ancient Sinhala culture? I have given Kusuma so much. I have been like a mother to her. It's too much to ask for a little gratitude to return. So, if she is like a mother, her duty is to arrange a marriage for that girl, right? But she is unmarried. She doesn't want others to get married. That is also jealousy and hypocrisy. Such a behavior can't be expected from a real Buddhist. That is antagonist. That is contradictory to the theory of Buddhism. It is a duty to stay with Lokunanda. Lokunanda didn't bring her up for nothing, said mother. Mother also agrees with Lokunanda. And that means Lokunanda didn't bring her up for nothing. There's expectation. Action is bringing up the girl, reaction is staying with her and treating her. Kusuma is staying with Lokunanda and looking after her. But she says, Priyadasa and she will be close to Lokunanda. She says she will continue to work for Lokunanda, argued Nangi. Nangi says, okay, she has promised to stay with Lokunanda and help her. Though married, she can come. I know what those promises are worth. Lokunanda sounded very sour. Will Kusuma have to live with Lokunanda forever? Then asked Nangi. Why not? Snapped Punchinanda. Yes, why not? Much better for her to stay with Lokunanda than going off with that Piyadas and having 10 children now. That is better. I am not selfish. I'll arrange a marriage for Kusuma to the right person at the right time. But she can't marry Piyadasa. Why can't she marry Piyadasa? This is also false. Lokunanda telling lies. She will never arrange. In the story we know it. Lokunanda was very firm about that. Arrange a marriage for her. No wonder she is so selfish. You have his fault thoroughly, Akka, said Punchinanda. Punchinanda also angry, jealousy, because she is unmarried. Arrange a marriage for her. I am going to ask Martin Mudalal to send Piyadas away to his brother's shop in Gaul. I have done a lot of for Mudalali. That man has a lot of respect for me. Action, he has done a lot of things for Mudalali. Reaction, Mudalali must send Piyadas away. What if Kusuma runs away? I asked. She will never do that, said Nangi. She is very loyal to Lokunanda. She will never run away. Loyal, fine loyalty, snapped Lokunanda. Actually loyal, otherwise they directly asked. She could have run away with him. Kusuma did not run away. She continued to live in Lokunanda's household exactly as before. After a few months, Lokunanda forgot all about Priyadasa's incident. He eventually married the girl in Gaul. As far as we know, never even visited Payagal again. Kusuma, of course, never married. I never heard Lokunanda talk about arranging a marriage for her again. But she gave over the running of the house entirely to Kusuma. Right? This left her free to study the Abhidharma. Right? Metaphysics, Abhidharma, serious teaching of Buddha. It was Kusuma who arranged for the sale of the garden produce like coconuts and yams. It was Kusuma who brought all the necessities for the household. It was Kusuma who organized all the Pirit ceremonies and danes. She became almost as keen as Lokunanda in the performance of such duties. Here is the action now. Action is Lokunanda prohibiting Kusuma marrying Priyadasa and handing over household chores. They seem to give her even increasing pleasure. She talked a lot about how accumulation of merits would give person a better life in the future. She often said that she might have been very wicked in a past life and was determined to be better in this present one. Lokunanda was very pleased with me. Punchinanda began to be almost jealous. Punchinanda also jealous. Why? The outside girl is becoming the charge of duty here, her sister's house. I was in Payagala for a few weeks and leaving to study further at London University. So they are rich people. Mahinda said Punchinanda, I think Lokunanda gives Kusuma too much to do in the house. That woman is more the mistress of the house than Lokunanda herself. You should listen to her talking. I don't like the way she talks to me. She's she has turned to be a very bossy woman. But Lokunanda listens to everything she says and does everything the way she wants it done. I don't like it. Now this is the starting point of that reaction, the major part of the story. Because Punjananda also rejected Kusuma marrying. Kusuma wants to take revenge on Lokunanda through religious performances, through the religion, right? Then we find Mahinda also talking to Lokunanda like this. It was true that Kusuma occupied a very special place in Lokunanda's household. It was true that she spoke to all of us as if she were our equal. There was nothing menial about Kusuma. Mm. But I didn't see why she should be menial. And I told Punchinanda so. You understand nothing, Mahinda, in spite of all your book learning, said Punchinanda. She sounded a bit annoying, but since this is what everybody at home had always been telling me for a long time, I took no notice. I just smiled as now I always did when they talk to me like that. That I mean they are caste, class, aristocratic people. They don't like uh, a poor girl like Kusuma to be their equal. It was 3 years before I returned again to Sri Lanka when I went to Payagala. I went as usual to Lokunanda's. Lokunanda had a streak of grey in her hair. She has become a little bit tall. She stooped a little and two of her front teeth were missing. She wore glasses and spent a lot of time reading the sutras, religious verses. It was only Kusuma who was really busy, preparing dani for the monks in the temple, crocheting table mats, making pillow lace, arranging for the sale of the garden produce, making new vegetable beds at the back. Salpi was dead. Kusuma was in the sole charge of Lokunanda's household now. It is where action and reaction original story begins. Kusuma must be making a lot of money from the sale of table mats and pillow lace. What does she do with it? Said in the course of conversation. She is saving it to buy a brass lamp for the temple. Now she also becomes a Buddhist devoted one. She wants to overtake Lokunanda in meritorious deeds. That is the action and reaction. Action is Lokunanda prohibiting Kusuma marrying Piyadasa. Reaction is taking revenge on Lokunanda. Kusuma is planning to take revenge on Lokunanda through religious means. One of those big tall ones. She's a good girl, doesn't spend her money on clothes and powder like other young women. Her one aim in her life is to do meritorious acts. Because she wants to be born a rich woman in her next life, I asked smiling. What's wrong with that? We all want to be better ourselves. I couldn't argue with that. Lokunanda had always been a very practical sort of woman. I went to England again. Now this Mahinda says, I went to England again for fourth postdoctoral study 3 years later. When I returned for a visit after 2 years overseas, I found Lokunanda older, grayer. She took me to the temple and showed me the magnificent brass lamp Kusuma had donated the year before. She planned to build a new Bana hall there. Lokunanda built a shrine room. Now Kusuma was to build Bana hall when she had enough money. The vihar, the shrine room and the wall around the temple were dazzling white. Kusuma paid for the whitewashing this time. This time whitewashing of the temple was paid by Kusuma. Lokunanda had wanted to contribute something towards it, but Kusuma had refused very firmly. The merit from this act had to be hers and hers alone. She did not want to share it with anyone. Here also again, action and reaction, you understand it. If Lokunanda allowed Kusuma to marry Piyadasa, they would live near their house and Kusuma would come and treat her every day while Kusuma was managing her marriage life. Sometimes Piyadasa too would come and help. Right? Lokunanda rejected that. Her action now coming to her as the reaction. It was a long time before I returned home again on another visit. Many things had happened during my absence. Lokunanda had had a stroke which paralyzed both her legs. She was limited to a wheelchair. She now used a wheelchair. After Punchinanda's death, a heart attack, mother had sold our house and gone to live with Nangi in Kandy. Nangi urged me to go and see Lokunanda, who still lived in Payagala. Kusuma looks after her very well. Lokunanda is so lucky to have her, but she is very lonely. I haven't been to Payagala for a year. I'm tied to the house with all these children, Nangi says. Yes, yes, go, Mahinda said mother. I went to see her last year when I was in Colombo, but you know how difficult traveling in these days. The trains are jam packed, the buses are jam packed, and I am too old and knock about now. Go, Mahind. She will be very happy to see you. She is very fond of you. Mother insisted him to go and see. Lokunanda's house was still the same. The garden looked flourishing. The coconut trees were loaded with nuts, the mango trees with fruit. The orchard just before the veranda was very blooming. Lokunanda was in a wheelchair on the veranda. She saw me, tried to speak, but I couldn't. Her face was quivered. I went up to her and took her hand. She held it tightly. Her hair was completely white. The skin of her neck and arms hung down in loose folds. In these years I had been away, she had sunk into old woman. I thought I would never see you again, Puta, she said at last. Her voice was all quivery. When did you return? About 3 weeks ago. Payagal is exactly the same. Now Lakuna and then Mahinda talking. We talked for a bit. I gave her news of mother and Nangi. Suddenly I remembered the Bana hole and she had talked about years before. Is it finished now? I asked. Yes, she said quickly. She looked down at her hands. I felt something was wrong. Aren't you happy about it, Lokunanda? Yes, yes, I am, Mahind. It's a great consolation to me to have built the hall before I die. Kusuma is building a new shrine room. Kusuma is now building a new shrine room. Kusuma building a shrine room, Kusuma? But where does she get the money from? I asked, quite thunderstruck. She gets some money from the sale of her table mats and pillow lace. Then there are the coconut money. But Lokuna, the coconut money belongs to you. I asked her to use money, said Lokunanda uncomfortably. Now Kusuma, right, reigns the household. She dominates Lokunanda. Right. Now Lokunanda has become Kusuma. Kusuma has become Lokunanda. Mistress of the house, Madam is Lokunanda. Her action, Lokunanda's action. She is limited to a wheelchair. She is helpless. She didn't marry. That is also one action. She detested men, abhorred men. If she married in her young time, she would have children. Children could have treated her. Instead of that, brought up that girl and she prevented that girl's marriage too. Now, no one can, yes, protect her. There is no one to protect Lokunanda. Neither temple comes. her entire life has been dedicated for the temple, but temple doesn't come for her harbor age, right? Mm, she says, I asked her to use the money, said Lokunanda uncomfortably. We were silent. I looked around. I could see uh, into the sitting room from where I was. It seemed strangely bare. Something was missing. Suddenly it came to me Lokunanda's antique ebony furniture. What has happened to ebony furniture? Lokunanda looked even more uncomfortable. I asked Lokunme Kusuma to sell it for the shrine room. Kusuma builds a shrine room having sold Lokunanda's property. But Lokunanda, that furniture, you loved furniture. You said you'd never sell it. In fact, she had always said that the furniture was for me because it had belonged to my grandfather, the ancestral property. I wondered whether she remembered. I looked at her. She was twisting her hands nervously. Kusuma has been like a daughter to me. She does everything for me. Where is Kusuma? She's at the temple. She goes every day to see how the building is going on. Don't say anything. Don't scold her. Mind, she's like my daughter. Her one desire in her life to build that shrine room. But at your expense, did you really want to sell that furniture? Lokunanda began to weep. That furniture was my father's. I wanted you to have it. I had never seen Lokunanda weep before. Great rivers of tears streamed down her shrunken cheeks. I noticed she wasn't wearing ruby earrings. Earrings have also been taken. I didn't need to ask what happened to them. I suppose all Lokunanda jewelry would be gradually sold to pay for the shrine room and other meritorious acts. I don't want the furniture. I live in a tiny two-room flat in London, the size of your sitting room. What could I do with ebony furniture? I don't want to cling to my possession, but that ebony furniture was my father's. I didn't want to sell them. Never mind, never mind. Lokunanda build a shrine room is a very good thing, a very meritorious act. It seemed strange to be talking like that, but I couldn't really console Lokunanda, though she stopped weeping. It was almost lunchtime when Kusuma returned from temple. She was not at all pleased to see me. I could see that. She was now a middle-aged woman, broad, strong, determined. Hard. Lunch was served almost immediately. I wheeled Lokunanda's chair into the dining table. Lokunanda had loved good food in her old days. That time she enjoyed a good meal. I looked at the rice, the pol sambol, and the bit of dried fish on the table, and that was the lunch. Kusuma stared at me defiantly, as if daring me to criticize. I was silent. Lokunanda said, if only I would known you were coming, Puta, I would somehow have some sear fish and prawns for you. You used to like them so much. Now I like dried fish better than almost anything else, giving her bright false smile. It was very silent meal. I wondered whether I should tell Mother and Nangi about Lokunanda's situation. But what good would it do? It was impossible for Lokunanda to live in Kandy. There was no room for her in Nangi's house. And who would look after her? I just could not see Kusuma living in Nangi's house. As Kusuma was clearing away the dishes and placed, I said, so Kusuma, I hear you are building a shrine room uh, to be very expensive business. Lokunanda looked at me pleadingly, fearfully. Kusuma glared at me. I have found the money for it. It's a very meritorious deed. No one should interfere with such good thing. When it will be completed? The building will be completed in about month's time. But I need money for the image and wall paintings inside. My name will be inscribed outside because I am the donors. And said smiling proudly for the first time. Would you like to donate something, Mahinda Mahathir? She asked. I was surprised. Lokunanda looked at me appealingly, pulled out my purse, and I gave her 50 rupees. She took it eagerly and put the notes into her purse. Lokunanda, Kusuma. I wheeled Lokunanda back to the veranda. Tell me about London, Bhuta. Is it a big city? England must be a very advanced country, no? Who cooks for you? An advanced country, no? The Sri Lankan uses. That, no, we use, you went there, no? You are an English teacher, no? That is wrong according to English. She laughed when I told her that I cooked for myself. Fine meals you must be cooking. No wonder you look so thin. So why don't you get yourself a wife? Then she can cook for you. I ignored the suggestions and got up saying I had to leave. Her face changed. Aneputa, what's the hurry? Stay the night. I said I couldn't. I had to be in Colombo for a lecture at the university that evening. And I promised mother to be candid the next day. Lokunanda gave me a little sigh. When I shall see you again, Puta, next time you have come, will be dead. Don't talk like that. Next time I will see you, you will be on your feet and run in this house yourself. But neither of us believed in that extravagant lie even for a second. She tried to smile, then said, no, I'll die in this wheelchair. It's my karma. But I am very lucky to have Kusuma. She is like my own daughter. It's my karma, she repeated now. It is not karma. It is action and reaction. Right? We don't want to hand over everything to karma after making that mm, wrong things. After committing the crimes, we say it is our karma. That is what the teaching of Buddha. We say we are suffering in this life because our own karma. No, that is not karma. That is action and reaction. Yes. I tried to smile, then said, no, yes. I said goodbye. She clung to my hand and kissed it. Come and see me before you leave, Buddha. Tum sarne pihitai. And she said once again, it's my karma. A commonplace, almost meaningless phrase mouthed by so many. Right also highlights. Almost meaningless phrase mouthed by so many. And yet, as I looked back for one last wave, there seemed to be a truth in it, a truth reflected in that heavy sullen woman standing in the doorway and in the other, feebly waving a loose skinned hand. Now she is limited to wheelchair. She is helpless like an animal. There is no one to guide her, protect her. That is her own action and reaction. Action is especially not bringing up the girl, but prohibiting her marriage and pushing her to this religious path. She whole lifetime she dedicated for religion, but now religion doesn't come to appear for that. That is the misunderstanding of religion. Too much of anything is good for nothing. Even religion, we have to keep with the safe distance. We don't want to be addicted to that. It is like opium then. Like, but neither monks come and help her now. She has to suffer herself, letting Kusuma to involve in meritorious deeds. Kusuma's involvement in meritorious actions is also the reaction of Lokunanda's own action. Now you may know the story. In later, I will discuss past papers and model papers. Then I will dictate answers for these. Right. Have a nice day.